You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Prosper in the Kingdom. I'm your host, John C., with the super cool Wendy Lee. Wendy, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Good deal. Good deal. I'm glad we're, the warm weather. We've got the time change, so it's staying light a little later. So this is my happy time. We're creeping up on 12 hours of daylight per week or per day, rather. So it's a good place to be. So we're going to educate you today. Obviously, Prosper in the Kingdom, not obviously. So if you're the first time listener, let me kind of break it down for you. So Prosper in the Kingdom, John C., that's me. Wendy Lee, that's her. We're here to teach you and guide you on how to become healthy, wealthy, and wise through practical stewardship and real life strategy. And we throw in some biblical background as well, because I'm going to be honest with you, everything you need to know in life is in that book. You got to kind of read through it. But there's a lot of great information. So on the financial side, we're going to break that down. And we're also going to, again, throw in that real life happenings to help improve your financial situation. So today we're talking about something a lot of parents experience, and very few people actually warn them about it. Today we're talking about those 5 financial surprises parents face when your kids go to college. And I know, it's March. Maybe you've got a high school senior or junior starting that process. You're looking at FAFSA and all that, and you may not even know what FAFSA is yet. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on with regards to college that can have a huge financial impact to you. And everybody talks about tuition, but none of the other stuff. Would you agree with that statement, Wendy?
Yes. Well, all you think about is tuition. And then, I know for me personally, when my first kid went to college, it was like a few weeks in, I was like, oh, crap, I'm going to be broke.
Seriously, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. It's an exciting time. Your kid's going off to college or trade school. I mean, trade school, in my opinion, just as important and just as much of a viable option. But you get the acceptance letter and everybody's smiling and stuff like that. But you've got to realize that the tuition is almost just like the tip of the iceberg. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a large, if not the largest portion of the bill, but there's a lot that goes on. You've got housing, you've got food, you've got travel, right? Especially if they're going to be any length of distance. How are they going to get home for the holidays? Things like that. Spending money, and sometimes a whole lot of unexpected financial crap, right? That you don't really anticipate, but all of a sudden you as the parent find yourself responsible for it. And maybe you're splitting the bill with the kids, maybe they work, saved up some money, throwing some scholarships or grants or whatever. But you want to keep those loans down to a minimum, which we'll maybe do a whole show just on that. But if you're not careful, that cost of helping your kids through college can really start interfering with your own financial future, right? What you don't want to do is take a 3, 4, 5-year break from adding to your own wealth strategy, your personal retirement plan. But today we're going to walk through the 5 biggest financial surprises parents face when their kids go to college. And we'll also add in some practical steps to help you manage these situations wisely and maybe help kind of cope through it, right? So let's jump in. So the first year, that financial shock, again, everybody, you think you're prepared, or you think you've got a plan. Maybe you're not completely prepared, but maybe you have a 529, or we do a lot of 529 alternative plans. Everybody's looked at the tuition, okay, well, we're getting some grant money or scholarship money. You got some saved money. But then the first semester arrives, right? And move-in day happens. A lot of kids, I think the majority of them actually go to college, and usually freshmen are required to live in a dormitory.
Yeah, on campus.
On campus, right? And I think that's a good thing because it helps the kids kind of make that adjustment, especially, not that people would admit it, but if they were a helicopter parent, I've seen those kids when they first get free, so to speak, they just go off the rails. I had some friends that did that when I was in college. They just couldn't handle the freedom. But so that's a good transition. But you've got books, which I still scratch my head about that one. I don't understand. No, seriously, I don't understand why. It's like it's a textbook. I can go and buy similar books at Barnes and Noble or on Amazon for like $20, but yet somehow there's the holy grail of knowledge in this book that it costs $250, right?
And why they're not all digital at this point, I don't understand either.
Seriously. I mean, and don't get me, there's some smart people that write this stuff. I guess they got to get paid or whatever, but somebody's making a cut somewhere.
Yeah.
There's some money being made on this with these textbooks, but yeah, why aren't they digital? Give me a break. But those books can cost, hundreds of dollars, and over the course of your college career, literally thousands, right? Technology upgrades suddenly become necessary. Oh, I've got a lab. I'm like, but you're going to computer science. You're not doing laboratory work, right? Are you talking like with the glass jars and flame and stuff? No, it's a computer lab and all this stuff. There's fees for that, which I don't know. It almost feels like you start getting nickel and dime. Well, I guess $5s and $10 bills, not nickels and dimes.
And even upgrading the computer in general, like gotta buy them the new MacBook going or Chromebook.
Yeah, I don't do Apple. Less expensive. They're not cheaper. A lot of times they actually do more. Now, don't get me wrong. My daughter was a graphics person, and she did a good job selling me on buying her a MacBook because of the graphics are much better on an Apple, which is great. But anyway, so you got those technology pieces. Traveling home for the holiday, it's they may be halfway across the country or on the other side of the country if they're going to school, right? And then so you start looking at, I want to see little Susie or little Johnny, right, for the holidays. And so it's like, how is that going to happen? Are we going to go to them? Are they going to come to us? Obviously, they're probably going to want to come to you. So you got airfares, things like that, because you don't want your kid driving halfway across the country, especially during the winter. Go ahead.
Well, and I was going to say too, you and I both had kids. Well, you still do, but I had one for a year play college sports, and you want to get there and see them, So that's another expense.
My youngest son. I mean, we're in baseball right now. He plays baseball for the University of Kentucky, and I'm super proud. And it's a season, right? And it's going to end, so you don't want to miss any of it. So, and I talk to parents, all the time. We're making trips to this, that, and the other. And, I'm kind of mapping out, but literally once baseball starts every weekend, I'm on the road. Now, fortunately, most of the things that I go to are within driving distance, but still you got driving, you got hotel, you got food, everything else. And it's literally every weekend. So, I mean, that starts adding up, and then you throw in meal plans. Especially, as living in the dormitory, you sign up for the meal plan, which you want to make sure your kids are eating right, but those aren't cheap. Mm-mm. And then you've got the classic college budget item, right? Back in the day, I would have said coffee, but now it's like, energy drinks, right? Lots of energy drinks.
The girls might still do the coffee, but the boys do the energy drinks.
Yeah, and I'm like, and my son, and I'm like, dude, stop drinking those. Those are horrible for you. But he's like, I know, but I'll cut back. So it's one of those things that first year, especially, it's like, what the hell, man? I mean, it's like it's painful. Go ahead.
Well, no, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I remember Mikey, my oldest, when he went to college. I was like, literally every time he called me, I'm like, how much do you need? Because it was always for money, always. And not just, one of the things too, they have the meal plan, but then they always need the extra. We did talk about or this or that. But then one thing that I did not plan for. Now, there are some really organized, prepared parents that like decorate the dorm and have it all mapped out, especially I guess moms of girls maybe have that.
I was gonna say that's more my daughter went through that, right? My sons were like,
Yeah. But as a mom of the boy, I didn't even think like about dorm stuff. So then it was like, oh, I need stuff for the dorm. Okay. And then we go shopping. I'm like, oh, we need an air fryer. Oh, we need towels. Oh, you wind up spending hundreds of dollars just to get them moved in,
Well, you're basically setting up a new house, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's let's be honest, that's what it boils down to. And that's something that as you have somebody going in. So for you parents of seniors that you have a kid going this fall, start stocking up on that stuff like now, right? So that way it's not one big ticket item when they're moving in.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I forget who made them, but there's these big blue bags, and I think you can get them on Amazon that have zippers on them and straps. Those things are great to move in and out with, and they're pretty cheap. But look them up; you'll know what I'm talking about. But
I thought you were talking about for them to sleep in a sleeping bag. I thought you were being funny.
No. Yeah, kids, you're sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. No parent's going to do that. But you look at it. So again, start doing that now. But before you even do that, I would sit down, and this is kind of the action steps, right? Before school even begins, create a full year cost estimate. Okay, and there's just use a simple budget. If you're in Microsoft, you can hop out on Excel templates, or vertex42.com has some great templates. But create a budget on a full year cost estimate, not just tuition. What's it going to cost? And that way you can better prepare, right? Make sure you're including the travel that we talked about. Are they coming home for the holidays? Every holiday. Maybe you guys do Easter, or what about spring break? What about this? What about that? Are they coming home? Are they working? Parking passes is another one, which again, it's like the nickel and dime. And the technology piece we talked about, right? But knowing those real numbers up front is going to remove a lot of stress later. I remember when my oldest first went to college, oh man, I paid tuition. And it's like, okay. And, and I knew there were a couple of other things. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going out this month. Golf's gone. So it's like, it adds up. So having that kind of that pre-game budget, if you will, that pre-game, kind of all the costs laid out, will give you something much cleaner to deal with. And so it's not, coming out of left field. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot that first year, a lot of surprises. But then, the second thing is a lot of times those students are learning, are learning how to manage money by themselves for the first time. Right. So at home, it was easy to just be like, hey, mom, hey, dad, and they didn't have the living expenses. They didn't have all of those things, doing grocery shopping and things like that. And so, in college, a lot of times it's the first time they've ever managed money on their own. Yeah. And so I know for us, we had with my oldest a monthly budget, and this is how much we're sending each month. And more often than not, there was more month than money. Right. Mm-hmm. And so those debit cards get drained faster than expected. My kids never took advantage of credit cards, but they start getting those credit card offers showing up in the mail. Right. And so that, they can get into a pickle that first year. And, one thing too, that unfortunately my kids dealt with here and there is parking tickets at the.
Oh my gosh. Don't even start on that. I think my youngest son. Yeah, no, it's like my youngest son, because the car's still registered in my name, right? And I get this notification of an outstanding parking ticket. I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, don't get me wrong. When I was in college, I got a parking ticket or 3, right? But it was minor, right? Because again, I was a poor kid growing up. I'm like, man, I got to pay this myself because I paid for my own college. And so I go online. There's like over $300 worth of parking tickets. Now, he paid most of them. Yeah. But I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Well, it's the timers and the parking on campus and stuff like that. So, and that's something to consider too, just to kind of take a little rabbit hole here. Should you even send the car with your freshman college student? Now, if they're a ways away, yeah, maybe I get it. But if they're nearby, like within an hour, maybe even 2 hours, I don't know that I would do that. Hindsight, right?
Yeah.
That freshman year.
Yeah, that whole parking ticket thing, again, it kind of goes to managing money a little bit, because they think, oh, no big deal. Mom and dad will pay my ticket, and it's like, no, it's now time to take responsibility. These are yours. Be better about getting to class on time, so you don't have to park in a place that,
Well, and kind of tying back to that, I mean, I didn't pay them. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm like, no, dude, that's part of being a car owner. You made the choice to park there, so you get to pay the ticket. And so we got him paid off, and he paid me back. But kind of looking at those credit card offers and things like that, I got into trouble with that. My personal experience. And some parents just give a little, Johnny or Susie a credit card and say, hey, just we'll pay it. I think that is a horrible, horrible mistake. Because you're not teaching them the discipline. So they're just going to think you're there to kind of take care of it. And they go through that mindset and they get out on their own, right. And they still have that same mindset that, oh, no worries, mom and dad will take care of it. If you want to do that, hey, that's great. But eventually one or two things is going to happen. One, they're going to start spending and spending and spending. You're never going to get them off the company payroll, so to speak. Right. Mm-hmm. Number two is, eventually you're going to be gone. I mean, we've all got a date, right? And that may be down the road, but what happens then? You've left your child completely clueless on how to manage their own money. So, I'm not a big fan of that. Now, if you want to get a prepaid card where you load it with so much, that's one thing. I've got a, like I said, a budget set up with my one remaining college student, and they get, it goes auto pay into their checking account twice a month, kind of like paychecks. And that's it, dude. I mean, you get what you get. Figure it out, right?
And that's the thing, like having a conversation about that with their budget, credit cards, spending priorities, right? Yeah, it's not fast food adds up.
DoorDash. DoorDash. Everybody's doing it, Dad.
No, you're not going out. I don't know. I don't.
Maybe go work at DoorDash for a hot minute.
Exactly. So. And it creates that responsibility. So have that conversation, talk about budgeting, talk about credit cards and the fact that don't get them, and those spending priorities, and just having a conversation and setting expectations up front. Like Jon said, his kids knew this is what you get, right? So having that conversation up front is going to save a lot of headache. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big piece, right? Again, it's all about pre-planning, understanding how the game is played, so to speak, and that way it gives less stress to you, the parent, and the student too. Because don't get me wrong, when you get stressed out, the kid gets stressed out, which is going to impact their college experience, right? But one of the big pieces, most freshmen live in the dorm. Well, the vast majority realize about halfway through that this kind of sucks. I've got a floor manager or a hall manager or whatever monitor. And I want a little more freedom. My friends are getting a place off campus. It's that off-campus housing, right? And this is the one that really catches people off guard. Okay. First year of college, again, in the dorm living, it's pretty structured. You got the university involved. You're getting all the notifications and stuff. But that sophomore year, again, most students want to move off campus into apartments or rental houses. And I'm dealing with an issue right now with a rental company, and that's part of the reason we're having this conversation, everybody, today, is because I just shake my head. My background, just so you know, I've done rental properties for decades. And my last job before, starting Prosper in the Kingdom and working with, awesome people like Wendy and some others, I worked for a hedge fund, and I literally bought 130 rental properties every single month. I did that for 3 years, and we got them up running for rentals, managed the leases and stuff like that. So I know a lot about this. Okay. But when the kids want to move off, most parents don't know anything about it. Maybe you rent an apartment before you bought your house, but you've been in your house now for 10, 20 years or whatever. And it's kind of gone. Right. But all of a sudden you've got to deal with lease agreements. You've got to deal with landlords, management companies, things like that, utilities, furniture, security deposits. And again, it's not just your kid. Usually there's 2 or 3 other kids that you have no idea who they are, right? And you hope the parents are cool and responsible like you. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Let's spin the wheel and see what happens. You got security deposits. But in many cases, in the majority of cases, you're actually co-signing on that lease as well. And you've got to understand this. And this is where, and don't get me wrong, you don't have to really know the ins and outs, right? But you leverage AI. I'm telling you, man, when the agreement comes in, make sure you read it and don't just sign it. Most parents say, oh yeah, it's just the lease. You just got to pay rent. No, the devil's in the details, guys. And I'm telling you, you need to read through that and even run the document through AI and have it point out things too, and make sure that it's compliant. The leasing company that, we went through, got everything signed up, and I actually read the document, missed a part on the late fee, right? Now, most states, you have 5 days before a late fee kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a weekend. The first was a Friday, and so it was the second, third was on the weekend, and then the fourth, and I went in to pay it because I didn't want to go past the fifth. There was already a late fee on there, and I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's 3 or 4 people on the lease, so it's kind of confusing when you log into the portal. It's not just sending a check anymore. Nobody does that, right? And I realized that they charge late fees, and I saw where a couple of the roommates got hit with a $50 late fee on the second of the month. That is completely illegal in the state that he's living in. So I reached out to him, and I cut out the state code that says and they apologized and changed their lease. But keep in mind, folks, this is a management company that is in business and has been in business and manages a lot of different properties. Do you think they refunded all those fees to everybody else? Probably not, right? So you got to be aware of that. And, I'm dealing with another issue right now where literally this month they switched to a new platform and I set up auto pay on the rent and everything else, no big deal. Well, my son reaches out, hey, we've got a late charge. I'm like, for what? And he said, the rent. They had switched to a new accounting software, didn't notify any of the co-signers or anything like that. And again, they were going to charge me with a $50 late fee. I'm like, wait a minute. So I signed up for auto pay. I'm a co-signer. I'm on the documents, right? And you didn't notify me and you're going to hit me with a $50 late fee? I don't think so. And this is where having an attorney, we're part of an attorney network, which we partner with clients. If you're interested in that, we'll put the link in the documents. But I called and I said, look, this is unacceptable. And of course, Tiffany and Amber, who were the first people I spoke to, didn't really get it because they're going through a checklist. And finally I said, okay, I just need to know where my attorney needs to reach out to. And all of a sudden it got real. And one of the owners got on the phone, apologize. We'll give you a $50 refund. We're not going to do that. Just here's the new link. We'll send it to you. But that's, again, I'm venting a little bit, but that's the stuff you deal with. And so you've got to, again, the devil's in the detail. What if one roommate moves out? It's not like you're responsible for just your child's part of the lease. You're responsible for the entire lease. So if they all bail, irresponsible parents, you're stuck with the whole thing. Yeah. Damage occurs, stuff like that. They decide they're going to have a party and some idiot comes in that they don't even know, trashes the place. But you've got to be aware of that and deal with that and set some groundwork and some rules when you co-sign for a parent. And I'm going to be straight up with that. Daughters are easier. I've got 2 boys and a daughter. They're just easier. They're more responsible, so kudos to the ladies out there. Not everyone, but the vast majority. The boys are just kind of thinking, hey, what's the deal? What's the big deal? But anyway, so I don't know, Wendy, I'm going to stop the tirade there, but it's a big responsibility, right? I mean, I've seen parents get literally stuck with thousands of dollars because a roommate bailed halfway through the year because they failed out, first semester.
Yeah.
And now it's like, or there was a disagreement and I'm going to go move in with my other friend, peace out.
Yeah. I didn't face any of that. I never paid rent or co-signed. So, I got lucky there. Of course, you had more kids in college than I did. So, but yeah. And then, moving on, one of the other things to think about too is, sometimes we as parents are sacrificing our own financial future to help our kids succeed, which, we want our kids to do well. We want the best opportunity for them. A lot of us, feel like we're working for them. Right. But sometimes we wind up making, as parents, financial decisions that hurt us long-term. Taking out the Parent Plus loans, which sometimes it's necessary. I get it, but that becomes a financial burden long into the future. Draining retirement accounts, which I would highly caution.
Do not do that.
Yeah, don't. One thing, I never thought about before that until I met Jon and learned, how money works and the rule of 72. And, we teach the rule of 72 that when you're looking at how often your money doubles, you take your interest rate, 72 divided by your interest rate, or interest rate divided by 72. I always say it wrong. I do it right in the calculator. I just always say it wrong. Anyway, and that'll tell you how many years it takes for your money to double. Well, the opposite is also true, right? We can look at those retirement accounts and what seemed like, I think you gave this example the other day of you pulling out of your retirement account.
Yeah,
and
I did it. I
like
didn't know better at the time. First job. Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed like only, it's 10 grand in there. I'll take the penalty. But when you do that and you could have had that money grow for the next 30 years, you're robbing from your future self hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Instead of tens of thousands of dollars.
Literally.
Yeah. And so, and then the other thing is delaying our own financial plans, right? Pausing contributions to retirement or, not getting it set up. And, helping your kids is admirable, but sacrificing your entire financial future isn't always the best strategy. Because one, you don't want your kids to have to turn around and you're the burden one day on them.
Yep.
And then the other thing is too, it doesn't, our possibility of needing to help them doesn't stop in college, right? Like I know that there's times I've needed my parents as an adult. There's times my sisters needed my parents as an adult. And I think really teaching responsibility, setting the expectations up front. And listen, you guys, I know you might be surrounded by people that are paying for all their kids to go to college and paying for everything, but that doesn't mean you need to. So even if you're listening to this and you have kids younger and they're not near college yet, start making a plan now of what that's going to look like. Encourage your kid. I mean, I had, when Malachi went, I was like, listen, you need this much in scholarships you need your scholarships and your financial aid to be able to cover it. Cause I'm not covering additional tuition. I didn't want to take plus loan.
Yeah, and that's the big plan, right? One of mine, they had a scholarship which they lost. I'll share a story. I won't call him out totally, but he wanted to take his PlayStation to college, and I told him absolutely not. At least first semester, let's see how you do. And he did great, and then he took it second semester and lost a scholarship. And I didn't react emotionally. I mean, I was a little upset, a little disappointed. But it was also a moment for him to shine because obviously he was really nervous telling his mother and I that, hey, I lost my scholarship because I warned him against that, and we knew the deal. I mean, I saw the agreement was, they pay for half their college, we'll pay for half their college, right? And then any of the little periphery stuff like, the car and stuff like that, we'll handle that. But when he lost it, he came in and he had already had two things that he had planned as a solution. So he brought me the problem, but he also brought the solution. And we were just having a conversation a couple of weeks ago over a beer on that. And I told him, I said, dude, that was one of the proudest moments. He's like, you were proud that I lost my scholarship? I said, no. I wasn't proud that you lost your scholarship. But the fact that you just didn't roll over and say, well, what are you going to do about it, Dad? No, it was, they came with a solution. So it was awesome. Again, teaching them responsibility so they don't live in your basement until they're 55, 60.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So finally, just wrapping up. I think, are we wrapping up? Yeah, because we're on number 5, preparing your kids for the real life.
No. So, let's go back to that. So how do you make sure, again, making that, because I don't want people to think, I need to be a good parent or pay for my kids. No, come up with a plan that works for you and your family, right? Forget what the Joneses are doing. Okay. You want to make sure, like you said, you're protecting your own retirement, your own financial stability. But, like when he said, helping your kids should not jeopardize your financial security for the future, right? So in the reality of it is here, right? Ultimately, college is supposed to prepare young adults for life. And if you're in there bailing them out on every little thing or covering everything, you're not preparing them for life. You're preparing them or enabling them through a parental support system, right? So they're never going to get out of the nest, so to speak. And I know that's probably going to trigger some parents. Well, I love little Tiffany, that whatever, right? That's great. Hopefully Tiffany finds somebody to marry and they'll take care of her the rest of her life. But that's going to trigger some people right there. That's okay. The whole goal of being a parent with the college and things like that, again, is to prepare them for young adults for life so they can make the decisions, so they can handle their money, teaching them how to build a budget or a spending plan, right? Teaching them good debt management so they don't all of a sudden, fall into that credit card trap, because the credit cards are waiting, man. They know these kids are going to get good jobs, right? And they want a chunk of that ongoing forever. So that's why they give those free credit cards out, right? Investing, kids can start investing when they're 18, right? Or earlier if the parents get involved, right? My college student now has had an investment account since he was 8 years old, right? And it wasn't huge, but time adds up, right? And then teaching them how to build wealth, not just build an income stream, right? And we talk about all that, but those lessons often come later. And sometimes if you don't prepare your kid, they come in a real hard way. Think about some of the stuff you may have gone through. Do you want to have your kid going through that same headache and trial and tribulation? No. So teach them how to avoid those potholes, right? It's a great time to talk about how money works, right? How debt works, how investing works. And I'm pretty confident if you've raised some good kids, which most of you listening probably are, that's why you're listening to stuff like this, improving yourselves, right? They get it, right? And they want to learn that stuff too. And it's all about teaching them. And so they're able to and empowered to make good decisions to build a strong financial life over time, right? So, again, not to harp on anybody, and hopefully you've thought about this, but those are the top 5 things, again, that you really need to think about as your kids are getting ready to go off to college, because sometimes it's like a financial bomb going off in people's houses. And then, unfortunately, and I've seen this too, where the kid goes a semester, maybe 2, and everybody runs out of money. And so the kid's got to transfer to a different school or stop school altogether. And once you stop, it's kind of hard to get that momentum to go back. Or they start racking up student loan debt. And then that is gotten to a point where it becomes so easy that they just start using it as an income stream, thinking, oh, let's worry about it down the road, right? And then they come out of school with, $150,000, $200,000 in student loans, and they've got a basic degree. Okay, which you don't want that for your child either. But, sending a child to college, again, it's an exciting season for families. It's one of the most financially complex that I think people underestimate completely. But again, focusing clarity, communication, structure, and understanding what the real costs are and teaching that financial responsibility, making sure your support, for your children aligns up with your long-term financial plan is really what's going to set you apart from, unfortunately, a lot of the parents out there who just kind of run into it blindly thinking it's all going to work out, right? So if you'd like to get clarity around your own financial structure, we've talked about this in the past, need help kind of guiding through what would be a good college plan, right? Or, hey, I don't have a college age student, but I've got, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, I want to get them set up for the future. You can do amazing things the more time you have to kind of prep for that. So reach out to us, get your free Safe Money Roadmap, right? And just simply go to safemoneyroadmap.com. We'll put the link in the show notes and let us help you out. We'll just kind of show you some things, right? We know some things. So I know, right? So it's a simple way to see where you currently, stand financially, identify some opportunities for you in multiple areas to strengthen your financial future for not only you, your kids. And remember, that strong financial future, it's not built overnight. It takes some time, but that's where the planning comes in place. So anything to add to that, Wendy?
I would just say, also that Safe Money Roadmap, if you're a parent or a former student who's carrying a lot of student loan debt, we do have, if you have federal debt or Parent Plus loans, we do have options to help you with that. So fill out that Safe Money Roadmap, and there's a spot for notes. Just let us know that that's what you're looking for help with, and we can.
Just a side note on that too. I saw a commercial this past weekend. They're starting to pop up because we're getting close to graduation about converting federal student loans to private loans, and a lot of banks line up to get you to do that, right? Oh, we'll lower your monthly payment. You'll end up paying a lot more. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, they'll lower the monthly payment, but they're going to stretch it out over time. And that's something that I always counsel my clients. If you have a plus loan, or, as a parent, or your student has federal loans, don't convert them to private loans. Just don't do it, right? Because a lot of those student loans, like Wendy was talking about, the federal loans qualify for full or partial forgiveness. Payments can be reduced and things like that. And that includes plus loans. I want you parents to know that too. So if you've got, plus loans or federal student loans as a student or a parent, reach out to us. We can kind of guide you on that as well. But once they go private, you're in it. You can't really do anything. So just food for thought. So everybody, thanks again for being here. If you got some value out of this, do us a favor. Give us a little like, share this episode with a friend or family that maybe has some college students that are getting ready to head out into their own next chapter. But we'd love to help them out. And if you've got a topic you'd like to hear about, reach out to us. That's something we like to do. It's kind of like, okay, hey, people want to hear this, we'll do an episode on it. So with that, we'll see you next week. Wendy, as always, it was awesome to have you on here, kind of bringing your knowledge, especially as a parent of multiple kids with the college piece. And everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time on A Prosper in the Kingdom.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.